started off as an attorney for a utility in Cleveland. I worked as the labor management side labor lawyer. And then later on, I ended up representing unions with a firm later on. So I've represented both sides in labor relations and employment law. In between those two, I was a general counsel of an oil and gas company that was located in Lorain, Ohio, and was on the National Stock Exchange. And I did that for 3 to 4 years, I believe. Did a lot of traveling, and we developed oil and gas throughout the whole country, and I was the general counsel. The firm moved to Houston. I was not interested in leaving Cleveland, so I stayed in Cleveland and went with the firm that represented the company, Arter & Haddon, and I was with them for a number of years. And then I was on my own, and then with another law firm. And at that law firm where I was representing unions, I also did personal injury, plaintiff side, personal injury law. And I went to a seminar on mortgage fraud because I was interested in that. I was representing some people pro bono to get bankruptcy clearance, and I noticed that a lot of these houses that they bought, it just didn't seem right with these mortgages. So I saw this conference, and I went, and someone stood up and said, I work at the prosecutor's office, and we're trying to hire someone to do mortgage fraud prosecutions. And if you're interested, contact Bill Mason. So I did, got the job, left my firm with the prosecutor's office for 6 years doing mortgage fraud prosecutions and major trials. And after 6 years, I decided to run for judge, and here I am, 6 years later. I went to college at Ohio University. I graduated, and I got 2 letters in the mail in my senior year. One was acceptance to law school, and the other was my draft notice. It was the beginning of the Vietnam War, and I could not get any deferments. They said all your deferments were up, and you're going to get drafted. They didn't seem too interested in my law school acceptance, and they said, we're going to, it's your time. I needed another hour or 2 to graduate, so I had to go to summer school. They weren't interested in giving me a deferment, so I needed to figure out a different way to solve this problem. I took my physical. I decided I did not want to join the Army. I walked down to the Marine Corps recruiting station, which was located on the same floor, and I said, I have a problem. Can you help me? And they said, sit down, young man. I think we can work this out. So I joined. I was in the officer training program, which was going to start 6 months later, which enabled me the opportunity to finish college, have a couple of months off, and I went to OCS boot camp in Quantico, Virginia. 30-some weeks later, I was on a plane to Vietnam as a second lieutenant. Served there for 13 months, came back, stationed in Chicago, finished my 4-year tour, and then I went to law school at Chicago Kent Law School in Chicago, graduated with honors, and came to Cleveland because my wife, whom I just married, had a position as the first full-time female law professor at Case Law School, and so if I wanted to remain married, I came from Chicago to Cleveland. Been here ever since. Well, when I decided to run for judicial office, my main reason was I wanted to start a veterans treatment court. There was one with the city of Cleveland that was operating. There was not one for the county or the felony courts for a common police court, and I wanted to start one. I was the only veteran who was running, I believe, and there were no veterans on the bench. I felt pretty strongly about that. I'd been recently very active with Veterans Affairs since I came to Cleveland, maybe the last 10, 15 years. And I just thought that was important. I also thought that I was ready to be a judge. I had worked for the prosecutor's office. I'd been in private practice. I tried a number of lawsuits. I'd been in transactions. So I thought my background fit the requirements to be a judge, but my main desire was to start a veterans treatment court. My first year on the bench, I spent a lot of time talking to other judges about it. Other judges helped me in that regard. So the first year was sort of getting it organized. We got it organized. We wrote all of the necessary documents that the Supreme Court requires. We got certified. We started in May of 2015. We now have by far the largest Veterans Treatment Court in the state of Ohio, which has a number of veterans. I think Ohio is the 5th largest veteran community in the states. We have by far the largest Veterans Treatment Court. We have 2 probation officers who are veterans. We have almost 100 people in Veterans Treatment Court. Our court has been recognized by the Drug Court Association, professionals who focus on mental health and drug courts and Veterans Treatment Courts. We've been honored to present a lessons learned at one of the seminars, and I've gotten 2 national awards for Veterans Treatment Court judge, all because of the effects of others at Veterans Treatment Court. So we've done what we need to do to be recognized in our community and across the nation. So I'm very pleased with what's happened, and all of that has come about because of the Veterans Treatment Court team, not just me. Most of what I do is the result of 35 years of practice to be in the situation to handle the cases that are presented to me. And I think one of the things that I've learned most about all of this is to be patient, listen to people. I don't try to preach to people from the bench. I don't view that as my role or my job. And I know that I have a significant amount of authority over people's lives. And the question is, how do you use that authority and trying to figure out the best solution to problems, particularly in criminal cases. Generally speaking, about 1/3 of the cases, they're so serious you know they're going to go to prison. Another 1/3 of the cases are not the type of case that you would put someone in prison. And you put them on probation for various terms and conditions. And the balance are the really tough cases where you really have to weigh what is the best situation for that person. And I remember after I was just elected, I was standing in a line, I think I was getting my driver's license, and someone said to me, "I saw your picture, did you run for judge?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, did you win?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Congratulations." And all the people kind of were listening to this conversation because the guy was kind of loud. And finally someone said in the back of the line said, "Well, put them all in prison, Judge." And I'm sitting there and they're all looking at me as to how I'm going to respond to this person. I had no idea what I was going to say. I was just trying to get my driver's license renewed. And it just came to me and said, "Only those who need to go, I'll put them in prison." And everybody clapped because that's what I think they want out of a judge, to make the right decision for the right reasons, for the right situation, not to lock people up just because there's a prison someplace. And that's how I've tried to operate on the criminal side, and on the civil side, the same, but dealing with very different issues. So it's been very rewarding.